From the WATE.com Digital Center, answering your legal questions, this is Ask Isaacs. Now, here's Lori Tucker and attorney Greg Isaacs.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being with us today. It is our first live segment of the new year on Ask Isaacs.
Belated Happy New Year.
Yes, you too. And we are talking about presidential pardons and commutations. And you may be saying, wait, didn't you just talk about that a couple of weeks ago? We did, when President Biden really sparked debate with the use of his clemency powers. He had a ton. Now, there are a couple of updates. President-elect Donald Trump announcing yesterday at that hour-long news conference from Mar-a-Lago that he'll pardon some of those convicted for their roles in the January 6th chaos at the nation's capital. So, Greg, our question to you to start things off here, what issues does that event, January 6th, raise as Trump considers taking action on those cases and pardoning a lot of people?
Well, you know that the Constitution, Lori, is whether it's the courtroom, 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, is a living, breathing document that people change and interpret and use throughout history. And Article 2, Section 2 gives the executive, the president, the authority to pardon. That means wipe someone's slate clean. There'd be no record of a conviction, jail time, etc., or to commute a sentence. That's executive clemency. You could, basically shorten someone's sentence. You could open the doors to the jailhouse, so to speak, or you could shorten a sentence. But presidents throughout history, either they kind of brush off executive clemency until they're getting ready to leave the Oval Office, or they weaponize it. And there have been some pardons and clemency issues that have reverberated through history. When you think about Gerald Ford pardoning Richard Nixon, you think about Jimmy Carter and the draft avoiders in Vietnam. And then once again, Obama was prolific in terms of pardons.
He had the most
Yep.
of anybody.
He had 260 some pardons and I think 1,761 commutations. President Biden not only is top of the list in terms of historic significance of a pardon with his son Hunter,
right,
something we've never seen before, but also the number. He was just a few dozen short of Obama's record of commutations, and now President Donald Trump says two can play this game. So basically he has announced in kind of a prologue that he intends to pardon individuals arrested for their role in the January 6th, whether it was a riot, a peaceful celebration, an insurrection.
Whatever you want to call it.
Whatever you want to call it.
Now, here's the difference. Except for Biden, President Biden, whose son Hunter was involved, and he pardoned him, but no other president really had a connection to the cases that they were pardoning.
Right, and if you look at the history of Article 2, Section 2, this was intended by the Founding Fathers to give the executive, the president, the authority for unique cases. When the Whiskey Rebellion, when George Washington, from the very beginning, they had to heal the country. The Confederate War, presidents stepped in and forgave, and they pardoned individuals. But now it's interesting, and basically they have opened up the power of the Constitution, the halls of history, when someone such as Biden pardons their own son. And I don't care how you spin it. Well, he was treated unfairly by the Department of Justice, whatever. That was a pardon that was controversial when it happened, controversial the day after it happened.
It'll go down in the history books. Yes,
it will.
As controversial.
And, Donald Trump, one thing you have to give him credit, when he says he's going to do something, typically he does it. And, with all of the legal drama surrounding January 6th. And let me tell you some context, having looked at this issue website where we are looking for these people.
Oh, I remember looking at Facebook, everything.
Looking at Facebook. And you had the JTTF, the Joint Terrorism Task Force. I've had those people in my office. They don't play around. And they ask questions and they show footage. And, with all of that, now President Trump with the pen sitting behind the Resolute desk in the Oval Office in Article 2,
Well, he
Section
isn't
2.
yet.
Yes, in a few days.
Yeah.
And he's indicated that he thinks it was an unjust prosecution, and he is going to issue a blanket number of pardons, again, well within his power, but much like the Hunter Biden, something that we've not seen before when a president just basically weaponizing Article 2, Section 2. So
Very interesting.
it is.
Hey, speaking of President Trump and pardons, a lot of people have asked this question. Can he pardon himself from his New York state convictions? State being the key word.
State convictions are different. The president's power is derived from the authority under the United States Constitution. So it's unlikely that he could pardon himself. But you know, when you have the irresistible force and the immovable object, I would say that it would be unlikely that a state jurisdiction or forum can force the president of the United States to comply, etc. So I think that's like bringing the proverbial a knife to a gunfight. Yeah. So legally, can you do it? No. Practically, I think I would side with Team Trump on that one.
Well, that would go down in history, that's for sure. Clemency, or a commutation, I guess you should say, and a pardon.
And here's the factors that typically are considered. You file an extensive petition with the Office of Clemency, et cetera. There's a people, and they're, as we speak, reviewing these petitions. And basically, you put a lot of factual background regarding the person, regarding the conviction, regarding the seriousness of the offense. And typically, it's a very broad standard in terms of whether a president should grant executive clemency. And you look at the seriousness of the offense, you look at the individual's record, whether you feel that the sentence was unjust, too long, you feel whether the person had engaged in meritorious service to the government, or if they're ill or infirm. But basically, you can basically do what you think is just under the circumstances. But again, two things can happen with executive clemency. One, for example, if you had a sentence that was 10 years, the president has the power to say, you have served enough time, 1 year, I'm commuting the rest of the sentence, get out of jail free. Or the executive could say, 10 is too harsh, I'm going to commute it to 5.
Okay.
Now,
it's not a get out of jail free card.
It can be, but it depends. Now, the one that is the end all and the goal when you have a presidential pardon, because then that restores all of your rights immediately. You can never be prosecuted. You are no longer a convicted, these people are felons, convicted felon. Your constitutional rights and your rights as a citizen are restored. So there would be no record that you were ever convicted or pled guilty to a criminal offense.
That's why you hear of more commutations than pardons. Usually there's a small number of pardons because from what you just said.
And we look at the historical significance of the Hunter Biden pardon, and then you look at President Trump signaling what he's going to do with the January 6th individuals. It's interesting when President Biden not pardoned, but granted executive clemency by commuting a number of federal death sentences. You know, two of those said, no, thank you.
They did. They refused to sign the paperwork that comes with this deal. Can they do that?
Well, you know,
but they still face execution?
And I think that is a really interesting issue within an interesting issue, because if you read Article 2, Section 2, you know, you're supposed to look at these people individually and make judgment calls. So when a president is commuting sentences of people that haven't asked to be commuted, I mean, that's a little broad brushed and whatever. So that's interesting. So, you know, we're not talking about individuals that were jumping through all the legal hoops and filling out the paperwork and saying, this is why I'm different. This is why I should not be executed.
They didn't seek for this to happen.
So they just basically said, no, thank you. It is incredible.
Yeah.
So again, when presidents get beyond what the spirit of our founding fathers with these pardons and clemency, you know, things go awry. But it's really interesting how at different points in our history. Executive pardons and clemency really comes to the forefront of what we talk about. You know, if you think about it, under Reagan, under
Excuse me.
Bush 41, Bush 42,
Right.
even under Bill Clinton, you know, he had the little deal with his brother,
Roger.
Roger. He gave Roger some mercy.
We remember Roger.
Remember Roger. But this, you know, pardons and clemency was just something that was a footnote to an administration.
Right.
And now it is literally history changing when you talk about Hunter Biden, you talk about getting everyone off federal death row, and then you talk about, with I think just a few exceptions, one might have been the Boston Marathon bomber, I believe, is one. And now President Trump. So again, Article 2, Section 2 is at the forefront of our Constitution once again.
Let's talk more at 5:30, shall we?
Let's do it.
All right. Thank you for being with us. And thanks again for watching and for your support over the last year, making Ask Isaacs the most watched weekly live stream. We're very grateful for that, and we'll continue to bring you the topics that you want to hear more about.